Okay, I get it. It's not the homestand we all wanted, right? It's a 3-3 homestand. You're supposed to go 500 on the road and win 2 out of 3 at home. The Rangers didn't do that on this homestand. However, as we welcome you into the DLLS Rangers podcast, John Radigan here. Jeff Wilson joins us in just a couple of minutes. Not sure who Jeff Williams is, but Jeff Wilson is going to join us. Tanner is hanging out with us tonight, too, as we do this thing on StreamYard. Couldn't do it without him. And here's the deal. Here's the however, right? The Rangers 3-3 on the homestand. They were 3 sacrifice flies away from being 6-0. They lost 3 games in extra innings on the homestand, and in any one of those, a sac fly would have won the game. Now, I said it in the headline. I think maybe Leon just commented on it. Is it too little, too late? I don't think so. I don't think so at all. It's a series win against the Baltimore Orioles. Granted, they're not a good team. Dave Raymond was talking about it at the end of the broadcast. He was saying, the Orioles are probably the most heinous underachievers in the American League this year. And then he brought up the Braves, who the Rangers will face as the most heinous underachievers in the National League this year. Thankfully, at this point, we're not talking about the Rangers as at least not as heinous underachievers. They get back to 1 game under 500, not where any of them wanted to be. They haven't been able to get over that barrier in a while. I get it. But now they go on the road where they've won 4 straight series. So will they be able to maintain and continue that success on the road? That, of course, remains to be seen as well. But the numbers are trending in the right direction for your Texas Rangers. 14-9 in their last 23 games. They've won 6 of their last 8 series, right? These are all things that you feel really good about. Now, when you lose 3 extra inning games that rip your guts out, yeah, that hurts. And it makes it maybe feel a little bit worse. But you know what? They obviously, had a good series. They obviously are headed in the right direction. They obviously have that 1-2 punch in the pitching rotation of Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi. How about Evo tonight? 5 innings. He allows 2 hits, no runs, and 1 walk with a bunch of strikeouts. 5, I think, 1 per inning. His 175, there it is. There you see the numbers. His 175 ERA right now, after 14 starts, that's the second lowest in Rangers, even Washington Senators history. The only one lower was way back in the 70s, or maybe the 80s, by Rick Honeycutt. But 175 is a heck of an ERA through the 14 starts that Nathan Eovaldi has started for this team. And, it's amazing because we thought he was going to get out of there at 60 pitches. He just kept going. He came out there for the 5th inning, and that was fantastic. And then Dane Dunning did yeoman's work picking up 3 innings after Jacob Webb gave the bullpen also a rest. But Dane Dunning did the difficult work as he went 3 innings and didn't allow any runs, no walks. He had allowed 2 hits and had a strikeout. But Nathan Eovaldi, so fantastic. His first 17 cutters were all strikes. I think he might have even gotten to 18 out of 18 on that cut fastball. It was fantastic tonight. Splitter was working well too, but that cut fastball was just diving off the table, and guys were really having difficulty with it. So just a really good night by Nathan Eovaldi. And Bruce Bochy mentioned it last night. He said, I think guys feel more confident when they take the field with Jacob deGrom out there. Well, you can just insert Eovaldi's name as well, right? I think these guys go out to the field knowing we've got Nathan Eovaldi on the mound, and that allows us to have more confidence in what we're doing and more ability to do the things we need to do to win. Things like a home run, a 3-run homer in a clutch situation from Marcus Semien. The Rangers had 5 RBIs tonight with 2 outs. Scoring when you have 2 outs is so critical in this league, and it's something the Rangers were struggling doing earlier this season. They didn't struggle doing that tonight. 5 of the 6 tonight were with 2 outs. Marcus Semien's home run was on the first pitch, and it was his 600th career extra base hit. So just a great night by Marcus Semien, who had a great month, as we showed you yesterday on the show. I mean, Marcus Semien had a month that exceeds anything he did for the 2023 season, and it's certainly a month where he produced numbers that are better than his career numbers. And if a guy can do that, you feel awfully good about the way he's playing right now. So you feel great about Semien. And how about Corey Seager? 3 bombs over the weekend. He had another one tonight. I love it. He comes in there and he goes 410 to basically straightaway center field. That is not an easy place to hit a ball out at Globe Life Field. And there you are in the bottom of the 5th inning with a 6-0 lead that, again, for a somewhat offensively challenged Baltimore team that's facing a very good pitching Rangers team, it's insurmountable. And not only were the Orioles not able to mount any comeback at all, they were shut out tonight. 6-0 was the final. 6 runs, 11 hits for the Rangers with no errors, no runs, 5 hits tonight for the Baltimore Orioles. They made 1 miscue out there in the field today. Gotta love so many of these offensive performances. Adolis Garcia, was on base again tonight. How about Alejandro Osuna? He was on base 3 out of the 4 times he came to the plate. One of them was a walk in his last at-bat, but he did steal a base in that at-bat as well. He had a couple of singles in the 2 at-bats prior to that. So after his first home run last night of his career, it's nice to see him coming to the plate with a little more confidence. And, Mike Bassick was talking about his flat swing, right? When he keeps it flat, he's not popping it up. He's not driving it into the ground. Nice flat swing. What does that do? Goes right over the head of the infielders and lands softly out there in the outfield. So really nice night by Osuna. I love Jonah Heim's couple of hits. He had a double and a single in the game. And so, there's a lot. Of course, how about Josh Smith? Of course, Josh Smith once again, 3 singles. He scored on the Semien home run in the 3rd inning, but he leads off the game with a single, stranded there, scores in the 3rd inning, and then reached base again in the 6th inning. He's a machine. The guy just gets on base every time, every game, and multiple times. So a really nice outing by basically all of the Rangers tonight. It all comes on a day where, frankly, guys weren't feeling, super happy and super up in the clubhouse, because I was in the clubhouse before the game started today, and guys were a little down because their buddy and a guy who is establishing himself as a big leader on this team, Josh Jung, was optioned to AAA today. And look, Jeff wrote about it last night. He wrote sort of predicting that this might happen. and it has, and it probably needed to. That doesn't make it any easier for these guys who are really good friends of Josh Jung to make, he gets optioned. Jake Berger comes back after just one game of the rehab assignment, and Jake was obviously in the lineup tonight as a designated hitter. Boach says they'll probably keep him in that spot for a couple of games and get him a little more comfortable with that oblique. He told me it definitely was injured on a swing, right? So he just wants to make sure that he keeps his mechanics in check and doesn't swing. I think he was saying too far through it, right? If he gets too wild and swings through it and goes too far around, for lack of a better word, that's when he starts to feel it. So he's trying to keep those mechanics in check. But point is, I asked him about Josh Jung and about the fact that Josh had to go down. And of course, this happened to Jake Berger, as we know, back late in April, and it worked, right? Jake Berger went down and came back much better. He came back hitting the ball extremely well. His time in the minor leagues refreshed him and got him feeling better about himself. And right away, he came out of the gate swinging. He's confident, Jake is, and he hadn't talked to Josh yet, but he's confident that Josh Jung will do the same thing. I said, right, it's all about attitude, isn't it, Jake? And he said there's nobody in this clubhouse that feels like, Josh Jung will not have the proper attitude as he approaches this thing. This is a hardworking guy who all he wants to do is do everything to help this team. And so, that's where he's going. That's what Josh Jung is headed to Round Rock and the AAA team to do, and that is to, settle down, refocus. We asked Bruce Bochy, I asked Boch how did Josh take it? And he goes, well, obviously he's disappointed, as you would be. But, he said he took it like a man. He looked me in the eye, he stood up, he shook my hand. He said, I'm going to go down there and do everything I need to do to get back. I think it was Jeff, actually, that asked Boch, hey, when Berger went down, he was there for basically the minimum amount of games that he would have to be. You got to stay down there for 10 days unless there's an injury. And as soon as that 10-day duration ended, Jake Berger was back. And, Jeff asked, hey, so is that going to be the case with Josh? Well, Boch couldn't answer that definitively. He said, well, yeah, we hope so. We think so. And we hope so too, because Josh is missed in that clubhouse. There was a noticeable absence of a guy who is a leader and who very much, wants to be not only a great player, right, but he wants to be a part of the leadership of this team. And then it was also a somewhat controversial day today. We'll talk more to Jeff about this. I think he was in on the Chris Young comments about the Kevin Pillar statements that he made on a podcast earlier today, and basically said, I was very surprised that everybody on this team sort of is, a bunch of individuals, and they're not pulling together as a team. And obviously, this team is what, and he even said, Pillar, in fairness to him, said, maybe I just couldn't sort of crack the in crowd, right? The cool guy group, whatever. But he said he was always trying, hoping to maybe break in on the inside, and he felt like that didn't happen. We'll talk lots more about that with Jeff coming up a little later on in the program. But, so that's one of the other things that had this team, I don't know, feeling, I don't want to say sad or mad. They just weren't themselves. They weren't, walking with that customary spring in their step, like a team that's won 14 of their last 23 games and 6 of their last 8 series ought to be doing. So, they try to continue it. They've got 3 series left, all on the road, and it starts on Friday in San Diego. And we'll preview that series against the Padres, the 4th of July weekend series in San Diego. We preview that coming up. We also get to post-game reaction from Jeff, who's in the clubhouse working this final home game of the before the All-Star break. Obviously there's still 9 road games, but this was it as far as home games go. So we'll get to all that stuff. It's all coming up. It is the DLLS Rangers podcast. And we want to tell you right now about Empire Today. I'm sitting in the house today, and we've had all these floors done fairly recently. And I must admit, we had them done before I knew of the greatness of Empire Today. If I had it to do all over again, I promise you, we may have thought differently. This is an old place here, so the floors were done, in sort of the way trying to mimic how they were done in 1910 when the place was built. So kind of a unique situation. But I know Empire Today can handle that. They can handle any of your flooring needs because flooring is all they do. So make sure if you need floors at your place, even your place of business. Remember, we have Empire Today flooring up there at the studios at DLLS. Even if you need them at your business, make sure you go to Empire Today and get your floors from there. If you go to empiretoday.com and use the code DLLS, they're going to give you $350 off those brand new floors. You'd be surprised how far that $350 can go at empiretoday.com. Also want to tell you about Mando. It's, one of these days, right, where I was out at the other place. I was then at the ballpark. I was then back here. And, it wasn't super hot, but it was muggy. As one of the elevator operators said to me at Globe Life today, it's muggy. Yeah, it's still pretty muggy. And so anyway, you get to sweating. And I'm the only one in the room right now, but I don't want to sit here in my own stink. So I kind of used some of my Mando, sheets and wiped some of the areas that might have an opportunity or a tendency to stink on you. So Mando's a great product. I can't emphasize enough. I've got it upstairs. I should have brought the little package of those wipes down here. They're fantastic. You can use them anywhere, anytime. Very convenient. $5 off this starter pack of Mando products, which I promise you will love if you use the code DLLS. And that is the key to getting everything you need for your sort of body, right? All those spots on the body. So great game tonight. Rangers win it. They've outscored, after losing 10-6 on Monday night, they've now outscored the Orioles 16-2 in the next 2 games. So that's a really good thing. You see, Jeff joins us now live. And Jeff, I said at the beginning, it's not how you want a homestand to go, 3-3. But if you're going to have a 3-3 homestand, you might as well win the last 2. And I said they're 3 sack flies away from being 6-0 on the homestand.
There's no question about it. This could have been a 6-0. It could, if this team hadn't responded, it could have been a 1-5.
Sure.
Things were really, really gloomy Monday night after the game. The bullpen was dead. Hitters were frustrated. It just was, the same story. Three winnable games that they just didn't have the situational or wherewithal to get it done. And all of a sudden, these last 2 games, having Jacob deGrom and Nathan Eovaldi helps. But they did everything on offense these last 2 games. They really did. Timely hits, runners in scoring position, 2 outs, home runs, all kinds of things this offense did. And so once again, John, we find ourselves in the position of, is this it? Is right. The team is the offense back? And of course, Bruce Bochy was asked about that, and he said this one feels different. He says there's a different vibe with the offense, more confidence. They're getting more guys on base. They're doing more things when they're on base. And I think that after the game Monday, when once again it was just a failure. I think I think it was a, I don't know, I want to say a strongly worded hitters meeting, but I think the hitters meeting, Brett Boone kind of made some points, and said, guys, in these situations, we just have to touch the ball. Just have to touch it. Just have to move it forward, and you're going to win the game. And I thought Jonah's RBI hit yesterday was situational hitting, good hitting, something that he should have done the night before. He just kind of threw his bat at a pitch and hit it the other way for a RBI single. But Corey Seager is getting hot.
Yeah.
Marcus Semien is staying hot. They homered tonight in the same game for the first time in a long time. And it just feels like this is going the right way. It has felt that way before, of course, John. A week ago, after DeGrom flirted with a perfect game, it felt like that. So we'll see. They have the off day tomorrow, which, they need. They need it. I know Jacob Latz and Dane Dunning have done really provided really good long relief the last 2 nights to help the bullpen get reset, but they still need the day off. They're going to San Diego. San Diego's a good club. Off day tomorrow. Hope they don't drink too much down there in the Gaslamp District. It's the family trip, so the wives and kids are coming.
They won't drink too much then. They're good. Yeah.
And then it's a day off. Then it's on to Anaheim. Then it's a late flight to Houston. Damn those Angels. For these are 2 really big series. The Padres series, you want to play well and do all of that, but the Angel series, the Padres series, pretty big games as this team tries to go to the All-Star break and put itself in better position for Chris Jung to do some stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing when we think about it and talk about it, and we have. They're now back to 1 game under 500, and they've gotten to this precipice of getting over onto the winning side of the ledger several times in the last month or so. And maybe, if they continue the way they've been playing on the road, maybe they finally get this, and they can, obviously if they do get over 500, again, never the goal for a team as good on paper as this one is, but they'll feel really good about themselves heading into the All-Star break.
Yeah, you look at the standings, and no, it doesn't look good in the West right now. The Astros, they're playing the dang Rockies right now, so they've got a cupcake of a series here. The Rangers are 2 games back in the wild card. 2 games. How do you not make moves at the deadline to add to the team if you're 2 games back?
Well, especially when those 2 games, because it's Seattle that has the final spot, right? So if the Rangers win those 2 extra inning games, they're tied, right? Or maybe, yeah.
I mean, it's just it's gonna happen. I just can't unless the bottom just falls out on this road trip, and then to start the second half with the Tigers, the A's, and the Braves all at home. But teams that, for whatever reason, the Tigers are very good. The A's give the Rangers problems. The Braves are the Rangers of the National League. So kind of, percolating there, waiting for their breakthrough. They got Jerks and Profar back today. They're dealing with some pitching injuries, though. Anyway, what's in front of the Rangers is the Padres. Pretty good. The Angels, not bad. Better than the Rangers right now. Yeah. And then the Astros. So it's a huge time for this club, and they have a chance to bail themselves out. They really do. They've won 4 straight road series, John?
Yes, they have, and they've won six of the last 8 series, and they're 14-9 in their last 23 games. These are all trends, Jeff, that suggest that, to Boch's point, this one is different, and not to mention the fact that I think it was 2 of the 3 extra inning losses, the Rangers had 4-run or more comebacks, right? That was those, I mean,
Yeah.
1-2-0 was insurmountable earlier this year. You come back from 4 down and at least tie it up. Yeah, that's pretty good.
You know, I talked about that with Brett Boone yesterday, and he said, my first month we had one comeback win, and it was at Chicago because their third baseman fell down.
Yeah.
So I mean, he recognized it, like a lot like the fans. If the Rangers got behind, the game was over.
It was,
and that you can say here, starting really on last Tuesday at Baltimore, when they were up 4-0, then in a blink of an eye down 5-4, they tied the game, they won that game, and then they didn't have a great record in those extra inning games, going 1-3, but in 3 of them they had to come back in extra innings. They had to rally. And in the Friday game, the opener, they had to rally just to get to extra innings. So there's some fight here, it looks like. And and that's something that Brett Boone pointed out. And you get the fight, and that shows these guys something.
Yeah, it definitely does. And you see it and feel it and experience it from, you mentioned Simeon and Seager. Marcus has been really good since the Toronto game way back when, which was another sort of line of demarcation. But Seager's always a fighter. Dlls has been fighting. I mean, he's really, he only had the 1 hit tonight, but he has stayed fairly consistent for the last, really pretty much ever since his time away, his time out.
Yeah, I'm guessing we're going to talk about Josh Jung a little bit later. It's all how you take it, you heard what Jake Berger said before the game today about, you asked him about it, having the right attitude with this thing. And, if, they're doing these things because they believe that they still have a chance, but their chances are better when they have players who are max, as good as they can be. And right now, Adolis Garcia is really good. They want Josh Jung to be really good, and Wyatt Langford to be really good, and Jake Berger to be really good. But they're seeing Simeon. This might be as good a stretch as I remember him having with the Rangers. Honestly, let's say since that St. Louis series, it's taken off. We had his June numbers on the show yesterday. Yeah, and he's picked right up here in July. Corey Seager has 4 homers in the last week. Yeah, it's picking up. It's I think when those two are going, I think everybody else gets an extra boost too. They're not relying on those guys, but they're like, hey, our guys are going. We feel good. Let's contribute. Let's be a part of it.
Yeah, I talked to Dave Raymond about this in the dugout earlier. The pitchers, Eovaldi and obviously DeGrom, kind of boost the confidence of the entire pitching staff. Now that the 2 best hitters, Seager and Simeon, are acting like Seager and Simeon, I believe it'll have a similar type effect on the rest of the hitters. It's amazing, but we've said it. They've said it. We've asked them about it this year. Hitting is contagious, man, and maybe these guys are going to catch a little something here.
Yeah, and when let's say Seager and Simeon stay hot, then you have Eovaldi coming back to full strength, who's going to pitch right behind DeGrom. Talking about 2 incredible 1-2 punches, one offensively, one on the mound, and if with Seager and Simeon, you would think, hey, we might not be out of any game, and it was on Monday night. It was 3-0, and the Rangers looked lifeless. And pop, Simeon hits a 2-run homer, all of a sudden they're able to tie the game. Of course, they ended up losing, but that's fine. But Garcia hit the big 3-run homer. Tonight again, Simeon 2 outs, 3-run homer. It was big. Another big hit was Ezekiel Duran's 2-run single.
Yes, it was.
But again, it's production throughout the lineup. And we were making jokes about the lineup last night, and today's wasn't much better. It's like, this is a spring training lineup. It's like It's like, are all the regulars going to be off tomorrow? But it's like, uh, it's a nice guy, Michael Hellman. I don't think anybody had Michael Hellman on their bingo card.
No.
And Osuna's starting to do some stuff now. So
he is, yeah.
Billy McKinney, he's had some good at bats.
Nobody had him on their bingo card either. Yeah. We'll talk about him, but also I want to get into the Josh Jung stuff with you. I talked a little bit about it before you came on. Also, the other controversial story about Kevin Pillar. Were you in on the CY thing? So
yeah, I wrote a story about it. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about Jung. It's all coming up. It's the DLLS Rangers podcast.
John, I feel bad that I'm taking your thunder here.
I know you're taking
game time.
Yeah.
But I mean, the next one is for sure your wheelhouse. But
yeah,
game time. Download the app and use the code DLS. You get 20% off your first purchase on the secondary ticket market. Game time. The app's fabulous because it shows you the view from the seat you're considering. The price is the price for the all-in stuff. All the extra fees and crap. So you're good. You know what you're getting into when you go to game time. And the Rangers don't have another home game until Friday the 17th against the Tigers. It's the pickleball paddle giveaway. Guess what? Tickets from $25 on game time. So once again, download the Game Time app. Use the code DLLS at checkout on your first purchase, and you will get $20 off.
That's going to be a fantastic series too against the Tigers. So yeah, we'll definitely be a part of that one. And when we show up at the ballpark, we'll be wearing our shades. Future's bright for the Rangers right now, so they got to wear shades. And Shady Rays are about the best you could possibly wear. They are almost indestructible. They will replace your shades even if you lose them. Which kind of sounds like, right, a YP, your problem. You lost. Nope. Shady Rays takes it as their problem, and they'll replace your shades if you lose them. So, and they'll, either fix or replace them if you break them. So it's a wonderful place to get your sunglasses. There are hundreds of styles and colors available. They're polarized. They're fantastic. I've got a couple of pair. I'm in the market for another one. ShadyRays.com. They're a good price at a good price point, and you can get 35% off that price point if you use the code DLLS at ShadyRays.com. All right, so the Josh Jung stuff, Jeff, was a surprise to a lot of people, and I was listening to the radio on the way after I was leaving the ballpark, heading back here to get after the game, and on radio and stuff like, whoa. A surprise to a lot of people, but you wrote about it last night, and actually, I wasn't shocked either because we'd been talking about it on the show. But you saw this, you kind of saw this one coming.
Yeah, I thought it was a couple days away. Honestly, I thought they would wait for Berger and Langford and Carter to get back to, fortify the lineup. But they felt like with getting ready to fly out tomorrow, that now is the time to do it. Berger only made the one rehab start. He was expecting to do two. So they brought him back tonight. Basically, it's just time, and if you want to draw comparisons here, look at what they did to Jake Berger earlier in the year. The Rangers, they sent him down late in April, I think it was. Maybe it was early May. I don't know.
I think it was April. Yeah.
And they said, all right. They'd watched him chase. He wasn't himself, whatever they said. Go down there, get straightened out. He went down. He didn't play a bunch of games, but when he played, he was hitting the ball in the ballpark. He did really well. So it was like a reset. Jake Berger is a more established major league ball player than Josh Jung.
Right.
He's had better seasons. He has more bats. It's, so if the Rangers were willing to do that with Jake Berger, they would have to do it with Josh Jung. It's the same situation. And, we talked on the show yesterday about Josh Jung's month of June, 158. That ain't very good.
Nope.
And a lot of the talk today, as you heard, John, with the manager, was about the mental side of things and how much Josh can get into his head. And, he cares so much and all this stuff. And, he's had a lot of pressure on him since he was drafted. Third baseman of the future. Adrian Beltre was the third baseman just the year before he was drafted. Guy's in the Hall of Fame now. But he needs to go down and just get it all cleared out. Get it, and it might be a relief. He might have known this was coming or feared that this was coming. Get him down there, have him play some games. Work with, I'm assuming, Cody Atkinson, who's the minor league hitting coordinator, who's worked with Jung extensively in the past, will be with Round Rock with Jung, trying to get him back to form. But also, get your mind off of it. Go play in some low pressure situations. Take it for what it is. It's an opportunity, as Jake Berger said. It's an opportunity to get better. It's not a slap in the face. It's an opportunity to get better, and Josh Jung needs to be better.
Yeah, and you're right. He knows it, and that doesn't make it any easier. And I told them prior to you coming on, I asked Boch about that. He said, "Well, he's disappointed, but of course he took it like a man. He looked me in the eye, shook my hand, and off he went." And the reality is, what Boch was, in addition to the mental stuff he wants him to work on, one of the reasons Boch identified and cited was he's just been expanding so much, right? So you expand that strike zone, you're giving away outs, right? You're giving the pitchers, like, I don't even have to throw this guy a strike. He's going to swing at it,
Yeah, and just not able to put things into perspective. The strikeout Sunday in the 11th, A, swinging pitches in the strike zone, B, shorten your swing and put the ball in play. Yeah. Not being able to do that, getting caught up in whatever he got caught up at the plate is kind of a telling thing too, because they talk about this Josh Jung. Oh, Josh Jung is a baseball rat. He's a junkie. All he does is baseball. Okay, then he should know that. He should know what he has to do in that situation, and the fact that he didn't execute kind of tells you where he's at. I think.
Yep, and to your point and Boch's point, where he's at mentally, right? I mean, he's still got the same ability. He's just got to be able to get over a mental hurdle, and this reset, which is essentially what it is the classic opportunity to do that. So, but there was still a bit of a pall. I mentioned it in the clubhouse because people don't love to see one of their guys, one of their warriors get sent down, and then there was that Kevin Pillar story that had people scratching their heads a little bit, and I had to leave before I heard from CY. I saw some of the comments, but what was his take on all of that?
Well, he said that he had seen snippets of it. They'd all seen snippets of it. They probably hadn't clicked on the podcast and watched it and listened to his words for sure. CY was like, he's a good guy, and he probably didn't mean his words to have a negative connotation. And really, and I kind of wrote this, when you kind of dissect everything that he said, he was comparing it to his situation in Atlanta, which he said was great chemistry, or and he never said the Rangers have bad chemistry. He just said it's not the same as Atlanta. And my point is that it's been like this for 4 years.
Yeah.
It's or longer. Players are just not in the clubhouse anymore. They're they might be out getting early work, or they're getting treatment, or they're eating, or they're in a meeting or something. Guys just don't hang out in the locker room anymore. They're not at their lockers much. I mean, we went into the locker room after the game, went into the clubhouse, went to the locker area, and nobody was in there. And so I left
after a win.
I left, and so it's just kind of the way things have changed, and he should know that. Now, he was with a young team last year, the Angels, so younger players are more in the dugout more. And I don't know what it was like with the Braves. I'm sure it was fine. But my takeaway was, he was comparing. He thought it was going to be this great thing that the Braves had. All right. And it didn't meet his expectations. I don't think he said the Rangers have a terrible clubhouse. They have a clubhouse problem. That's why they're losing. I just think it didn't meet his expectations. Now, he did take a shot at Corey Seager. He said they're people doing individual things, and you don't see him until game time. Whether he intended to or not, that was a shot across Corey Seager's bow. Well, again, Corey Seager's been doing this for 4 years. It did bother some people initially. They didn't understand it, all right? But the results are hard to argue with.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to tell Corey Seager to change his routine. I don't want to do anything that's going to take Corey Seager away from being great. So, I just think this whole thing's overblown. And John, you've been around the team. These guys all like each other. They all get along. They give each other shit. They're joking. They're happy. They all have families. They have family day and things like that they all go to. You see kids in the clubhouse all the time. It's not a bad environment at all. It just wasn't right for Kevin Pillar.
Right. Yeah. And again, I don't think the Braves have won a World Series in the past 2 years with their wonderful chemistry. Right. So,
right.
And you were sitting there when Bassick and Dave Raymond came up and said, oh my God, this and that about Pillar. And I said, this kind of chemistry can work. And Dave goes, it did. I go, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It worked in 2023. So to say, which I agree with you, I don't think he did say this can't work. But of course, we all kind of read that in, right? Like,
you do initially. But if you just stop and think about it, it's like, he didn't say it was bad chemistry. He just said it wasn't like Atlanta. And here's another couple things that I pointed out. Kevin Pillar signed after spring training started.
Yep.
His locker was down there with all the non-roster pitchers who had no chance of making the roster. All right. So he's not with the regulars. He's not in there, next to Corey Seager and Marcus Semien, right there in the pole position. And so he was talking about how they don't stretch. I was kind of on that stretch time to be their friends. What about spring training?
Right.
Spring training is as relaxed as it gets. All right. Just walk your butt over 15 feet to their lockers. Number two, he was only with the club for 6 weeks?
If that,
he was hurt. He was hurt for some of that time. And I think he missed a road trip. So it's not like he was with them day and night all the time. And one of the road trips was to Chicago where it was 10 degrees. They didn't want to go outside and do stuff in Chicago.
Let's go stretch. Yeah.
So anyway, I just think that, he hasn't seen the way, as I pointed out in the story, that Adolis Garcia and Ezekiel Duran have taken Alejandro Osuna under their wings, just embraced him and teaching him the ropes. The bullpen had 6 new guys to the organization, and that takes time to get that thing to mesh. How do these guys get through this homestand if they hate each other and there's no good chemistry?
Right.
They're out there picking each other up, doing all they can, trying to bail the other guy out. And then like Patrick Corbin, he threw 109 pitches the other night. It takes a pro to do that, but also a guy who's a great teammate and who loves his teammates. And so I just think that anybody who's making a judgment, and Kevin Pillar was a good pro, he had a nice career. But anybody who's putting a ton of weight into his comments are probably need to, take the 30,000 foot view and be like, I don't even remember what number this guy was.
Right.
How many games did this guy play?
Right.
So I just think that this whole thing was overblown.
Yeah. Okay. Good perspective. We appreciate it. We'll probably talk a little bit more about that tomorrow on the show, but coming up next on this one, we are going to talk about the road trip. We've mentioned it a couple of times already. It's big. It includes 2 American League West stops. We talk about it next on the DLLS Rangers podcast. But first, since I left the ballpark, Jeff, I switched. I got my favorite old standby on. This is my OG piece of merch from
Yeah.
the DLLS group. Store.allcitynetwork.com is the place to go to get your merch, and you get one of these for free if you become a diehard, which is also great, especially when there's things happening like this Kevin Pillar story, which Jeff wrote about today, and you can see if you're a diehard, but it's behind the paywall, Jeff.
It is, and so go read it. And we still got this deal, $36. I think it runs for what, Friday?
Yeah.
Don't miss it. I know Leon in the chat is already a diehard. He told me so face to face in spring training, and we appreciate that. But everybody needs to be a diehard because it's not just my stuff you're getting access to; it's everybody. The Mavs just drafted some guy named Cooper Flagg. The Stars has had their draft. The Cowboys are always doing Cowboy stuff. So scan in the QR code, and you get a free shirt. I am wearing Hello Wincom. I don't know if I can get it on my screen.
Oh, good choice. Yeah. Oh,
there
nice.
We go.
Yeah.
So
that was bold. That was bold.
I felt good about it, John.
Yeah.
I felt good, and so just do it. Become a diehard, man.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer. Okay, so San Diego first. We'll show you the pitching rotation for this 3-game series as we know it. And again, there's really nothing not to like about this. Kumar Rocker got his first win on the road in his career. Jack Leiter was great his last time out. And we've already mentioned Patrick Corbin. And then you look at, the guys from San Diego. The one thing about this is it's, these are not guys you face all the time, Jeff. So it's going to be a matter of, doing your scouting reports and getting ready and being ready to take after these guys.
Yeah. Just kind of quick on from what I know about these guys, Vasquez and Kolek, they don't strike out a lot of guys. And, this strikeout's been a killer for the Rangers, as we know. But Tomo Sugano tonight, not a big strikeout guy.
Nope.
He gave up a lot of hard contact, a lot of hits, ended up giving up 6 runs. The TBA could be Matt Waldron. They just put a guy, Ryan Burt something on the injured list after he got hit by a line drive. So that kind of is what it looks like, but they also had to play a doubleheader today, got a day off tomorrow. So there could be some juggling. So anyway, we'll see, but they're a good club. They just keep doing it. Great talent, obvious, superstars, Machado and Tatis, and that Jackson Merrill kid's pretty darn good.
Yeah.
They're a good club. So, and you forget about Xander Bogaerts. So anyway, good team. And again, perfect place to play baseball. It's so nice there, and the downtown area is great. The airport's right down the street. It's a perfect spot. All baseball events should be in San Diego.
Yeah, and the team hotel is, like walking distance, like across one non-busy street from the ballpark. It's as good as it gets. St. Louis is pretty good too, but St. Louis, the street's a little busier. That one in San Diego is fantastic, right across the street. So super easy and super convenient. And, as you mentioned, it's a wives trip. So it's an interesting, wives and families. So it's an interesting dynamic because of that, to the point that the Rangers aren't traveling tonight as they normally do. But again, you got a bunch of kids. You don't want to throw them on a plane at 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night, and then get them in there at 3 o'clock in the morning. So they're going to leave first thing in the morning, and it'll be a much more reasonable time for wives and families. And then, they'll still have a decent amount of time to hang out in San Diego tomorrow. But the thing about the Padres, and a part of it, I guess, you don't ever know for sure. Maybe the Dodgers are just finally sort of asserting themselves and establishing themselves. But, the Dodgers are pulling away from the Padres and the rest of the pack right now. And the Padres are, I don't know, like 5-5 in their last 10. They're not, they're a good team, but, they're not, they're not world beaters. They're not the Dodgers.
No, they're not. And everybody was kind of hanging neck and neck in that division early on, and the Dodgers have gotten above 50 wins, and they've opened up an 8-game lead. But the Padres are in a wild card spot.
Sure.
The Giants have cooled off in that division. The D-backs are dealing with all sorts of injuries. Then there's the Rockies. So
sorry about you.
Yeah.
Sorry about you, Colorado boy. Yeah.
Up to 19 wins.
They're killing it. Yeah.
Only 24 more to go to tie the White Sox. The Rockies scored 1 in the 9th, but came up short to the Astros 5-3. Anyway,
there's that. Yeah.
But yeah, I would still not take these guys lightly. These Padres.
No, and then you've got the Angels, as you mentioned, after that, and I don't know, but obviously we feel like Ron Washington really instilled something in this group, and obviously we know Wash is going to sit out the rest of this season, and obviously it's his last season under contract. Obviously, it could be, depending on his health goes, it could be the last he's managed. Either way, it feels like, and we know Wash well enough to know, it feels like those lessons that he taught stuck, right? And these guys are playing really well. They're definitely exceeding expectations.
Well, if you. We only have one example, his tenure with the Rangers. The 07 Rangers were not a good team. The 08 Rangers played a lot better. Had 4 All-Stars. Yes, they made some changes in the offseason with Josh Hamilton and Milton Bradley. Sorry, I didn't want to mention him, but he was an All-Star for him.
Yeah.
And then 2009. Had there been a wild card,
they would have been it.
The Rangers would have been the wild card team.
Yep.
Then obviously 10, 11, 12, 13, all very, very, very good teams. And then 14 was a disaster. But he has laid the groundwork. He's taught these young Angels players what it takes, how to be a pro, what you have to do, teaching them the fundamentals, letting them learn the hard way, really. And when you look at the end of that 07 season, Rangers had a lot of had some veterans, no doubt about it. They had Michael Jung, but after the Teixeira trade, they had Jared Saltalamacchia, they had David Murphy, they had guys in the lineup who probably shouldn't have been in the lineup, guys who never heard from again, Travis Metcalf, for instance. And that was at the time they had, what was that guy's name? Jason Bortz, Jason something.
Yeah, Bortz. Just a muscle head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wasn't. He didn't amount to much, right?
No.
So anyway, you thin the herd. You put some money into the club, as the Rangers did, or they at least acquired Hamilton. While the Angels made some acquisitions this offseason. But you get the veterans to buy in that are still going to be around there. So, Michael Jung had to be sold. I'm guessing Mike Trout had to be sold. So
sure.
But I think this team has Wash's fingerprints on it, his attitude on it, and hopefully he's back, and hopefully his career is not finished.
Yeah, it's interesting when you mention that 07 team, because Michael Jung, when he was, he made some comments about Elvis at the ceremony the other day, and he said, when we lost our heart and soul, we lost our guy, we lost Mark Teixeira, and you forget about that part of it, right? At that point, Teixeira's, almost a 5-year veteran. He's a leader. That's his personality. He's a really good player. He's a high draft pick, and he's gone. But then, of course, Michael paid that comment off with, little did we know, like the biggest piece, the best piece we were getting back was Elvis, and then you add everything else in. It was a great trade. Nobody's disputing that. But when it first happens, you don't know what Elvis is going to be, and Matt Harrison's going to be, and Neftali Feliz is going to be, and all the guys that they got back in that trade, even Saltalamacchia.
Yeah, they got 4 major league players out of that deal, and also that was a big draft year for the Rangers. They had 5 picks in the first 2 rounds or something like that, and those players didn't necessarily pan out, but they were able to trade them for guys who helped. Michael Maine, was traded for Benji Molina. Then Blake Bevan is traded in the Cliff Lee deal.
Yeah.
So you can look at a draft that way too. You acquire amateur talent and build a farm system to help the big league club, but also to trade them away.
Sure.
And so that was a big year, 07. And that's summer in June. The draft is in June then, and then the July trade deadline. So kind of shaped the Rangers going forward.
Yeah, it really did. And then, of course, the final series before the All-Star break is somewhat fittingly, I suppose, against the Astros, who, it's almost annoying, Jeff, that it's like, don't look now, but the Astros are really good again. And I don't know that they're that good. I do know that their record says, they're significantly in front in the American League West.
Yeah, they've beat some good teams here. They've been doing it against good clubs, not the Rockies notwithstanding.
Right,
Hunter Brown's been such a revelation for them.
Yeah,
Framber Valdez is having a nice season. They have been dealt some bad injury news here.
Yeah,
Jeremy Pena, the broken rib. Yordan Alvarez looks like he might not play this. Maybe this year. With a setback with his hand. But they still have enough. They're still doing enough. They still have that Josh Hader down there in the bullpen.
Yeah.
So if you're behind in the ninth, you're in trouble. I do think that, and we said it yesterday, that they're gonna hit a stretch. They're gonna have a bad stretch, and hopefully the Rangers are catching them at the right time. It's just a big series, a big road trip, opportunity to gain ground on the Angels. Well, the Angels and Rangers are now tied. I guess opportunity to distance yourself from them, opportunity to make up ground on the Astros, and the opportunity to tell Chris Young, hey, don't sell us short yet.
Yeah.
You believed in us, and we're finally waking up. That's what needs to happen on this road trip.
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, the Angels and Rangers both tied at .494 winning percentage. The Angels have played a couple of fewer games, but they're both at .494. But right now, and they're both only 2 games behind Seattle, which is the point. Seattle holding that wild card spot, that final wild card spot right now, and the reality is, if the Rangers win those 2 or even one of the 2 extra inning games, that gap would be even tighter. So now they're done. No, they've got one more series with the Mariners. That's up there around trade deadline time, isn't it?
That's correct. The 31st through the 3rd of August. Yeah, that 4-gamer, and it looks like Missy just said that Carlton Kershaw got his 3,000th strikeout. So
good for him.
That's something we can dive into tomorrow too. We just have a lot to talk about. I can only write so much. I have so little time in the day, and there are just stories hanging out there I haven't written yet. We've talked a lot about Josh Jung. I just haven't written the story yet. So I'll do that in the morning, I guess, at some point. But there's a lot happening with this team. They're getting healthy. They're making decisions. Make a tough call on Josh Jung. The right guys are getting hot. The pitching, when you have Evaldi and Evaldi, DeGrom, Evaldi, you're not going to lose 2 games in a row.
Nope.
You're
ain't happening.
You're in pretty good hands.
Yeah, ain't happening.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, that's great. That's already got us excited about tomorrow's show. We'll come to you at 1 o'clock tomorrow with our normal edition of the DLLS Rangers podcast. We thank you for hanging out with us late tonight. Once again, the Rangers win it 6-0 was the final. Great night for Nathan Eovaldi. Really good night at the plate for Simeon and Seager. And, of course, Dane Dunning doing some yeoman's work at the end of this one. So thanks for joining us. We will see you again tomorrow at 1 o'clock for the DLLS Rangers podcast.
We all silly like the mayor.